and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought it would be fun to start my winter houseplant tour. I did another houseplant tour in the summer, like July, August time, so if you want to go see what my collection was looking like then, how I was presenting all of my plants, go have a look at that. I will link those videos down below. But it's time for an update. I have changed some things around. I want to show you how my plants are doing, how they're going, how they're growing, and just how happy they are, or unhappy in some cases. So I figured I would start in my living room. This is part one. I'm gonna have 2 more parts as well with the office and the bedroom, and I will show you all of the plants over the next couple of videos. So stick around and watch those. Once they're up, I will link them down in the description below, and they will all be there for you to see. Exciting. If you are new here and you don't know who I am, welcome to my home. My name is Emma and I make houseplanty videos all over the internet. So if you want to follow along with my houseplanty journey and maybe learn something along the way, stick around, watch some more of my videos, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for coming and joining for my houseplant tour. I feel like this is a great introduction to all of my plants. If you're not new here, I hope you're enjoying these updates and seeing how things are going throughout my collection. Right. Let's get into the living room. So this is my living room. It almost doesn't look like I have tons of plants in here, but I do, because there are so many things inside of that cabinet there. So I guess I'll start in there. So my cabinet is in general quite full most of the time. This is the Milsbo cabinet from IKEA, my first cabinet, and I absolutely freaking love this thing. It makes showing off these plants so nice. So let us have a look inside and see what we've got. So I actually kind of feel like starting at the bottom today, which is an interesting choice for myself, but I guess we'll go from top to bottom, left to right in here. First thing we have here is my Anthurium Warwickwianum, and oh my goodness, I love this one so much. It was a plant that was on my wish list for literal years, I'm pretty sure, and it's just been one that I've always really wanted. I got it at the Rare Houseplant Festival, I think that was in August of 2022, and so far it's done absolutely nothing. It's got like really great roots, you can see the roots in there, but just nothing going on in terms of leaves, so not sure what's gonna happen with that. But I'm hoping at some point it does. I mean, in the end, it still looks really beautiful here without a new leaf, but I would hope that it would grow at some point. In this tiny little pot, I have one of my Hoya linearis. I have 2 of these actually from like different props, and this one I think is my older one. I've been propping this one forever, and it's only finally starting to look like a real plant now, and I think I do attribute a lot of that to being inside of the cabinet and getting quite a lot of light. As you can see, it's quite close to the grow light, so it is getting a lot of light and humidity, and I think it's liking that. But I do seem to find them to be a lot slower than a lot of my other houseplants, so it's one that I feel like, especially if you're growing it from cuttings, you're going to need patience for. Next to it, we have the Syngonium Strawberry Milk with these amazing pink leaves on there. Oh my goodness, the pink on these just is so special. Normally I'm not the biggest fan of pink Syngoniums, but I think this one is really it for me, because usually when I get pink Syngoniums, they tend to end up looking quite muddy because they're a mix of pink and green, but the Strawberry Milk doesn't do that at all. And it's got like really nice long skinny leaves as well, which I think just brighten up the plant quite a lot. It is a fairly slow grower comparatively, but it is happy, and I grew it from a tiny little seedling, so it is in a good place, I think. In this little pot of sphagnum moss, I just have a couple of props, some Syndapsis Jade Satin and some Melanochrysum. To be honest, I'm not gonna talk about those very much because I'll talk about this one in a minute, and I'm not necessarily feeling the Melanochrysum, so I'll probably end up swapping it away. I've kind of gone off Melanochrysum just because they never actually ended up growing that well for me, and they always end up like not sizing up and getting really stuck. So it's not been my favorite plant, unfortunately, because I do really like the look of them when they are nice and big and mature. This Synapsis back here is a Synapsis Dappled Dude, I believe. I fairly recently potted up, and so that's why it is a bit curly right now, because it's adjusting to the soil life. But this was one that I got at the plant swap, I think in October, and it is doing quite well. It's got like very camo-y variegation instead of like very poignant splotches like a lot of the other Synapses have. So it's a bit of difference and a departure from the norm, but I really love it, and I'm hoping that I can get it to grow quite big. Typically, Synapsis cuttings grow quite slow for me. They're slow to produce new growth, so I'm not holding my breath on this one, but I'm hoping that now that it's in soil and getting a bit more nutrients, it will start growing some new leaves soon. Next to that, I have one of my Anthurium Silver Blushes. This is the one with like the super duper silver leaves, and it is just insanely silver. I have recently put it into pon or semi-hydro, so it is adjusting to that, and I think it's getting a bit more light than it wants at the current moment. I don't think it wants quite this much. But this one has also been a very slow grower, and it's really weird because the new growth is growing in nothing like the older growth. It is much more round and less silver, so I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. But, I mean, I still love it, and I'm hoping that it grows big and nice. But it is one of my slowest Anthuriums. I don't know, I got it from essentially cutting, and I had to like save it from root rot after importing. So it has been a process with this one, and I don't know if it will ever like fully become a nice plant. I've got my fingers crossed for it, but I'm not sure. Next, over on the side here, we have a Hoya. This is a Hoya Obovata Splash, and this one is going a little bit yellow, which is not ideal, but one of the exciting things about these is that when it gets sun stressed, their variegation goes pink, so the splashes on it are pink instead of more silvery, which is a bit of fun. It does look like it is putting out a new leaf there, which is exciting because that's the first new leaf it will grow in my collection, or in my home. So I'm hoping that it grows it eventually. It's very small now, but they always start out really small. Hopefully it'll end up being very similar size to these ones, because that would be awesome. And then lastly, in the corner here, I've got a, I think it's a Soderoy X Ornatum. I'm not 100% sure on this one, I don't quite remember, but it is one that I got in a like swap or trade, and it's just got some really beautiful silvery leaves. This leaf here, I think because it's so close to the grow light, is very silver as opposed to the splotchy silver that they are elsewhere in the plant. But it's just on a lazy moss pole that I've made that I'm really bad about keeping dry, but that's okay. I'm sure it will be fine in the end if I do end up keeping it moister. It's just something that I need to be a bit more on top of, I think. Below those, I have this Anthurium, which I grew from a seedling as well. This is an Anthurium, I think Magnificum Forgetii combo. Sorry, my predatory mites are getting in the way. But I grew it from a tiny seedling. Like, its first leaves were the size of my thumbnail. They were so tiny. And so it has grown so much for me. And it's really getting like beautiful red coloration around the middle there, which makes me so happy. It makes me think that it might be crystalline-y, but I'm not too sure. Again, I got it as a seedling in a swap, so I'm not positive of the ID, but I'm pretty sure I got it as a Magnificum Forgetii. It hasn't grown new leaves in a while, so I think it's taking its sweet time, but I have got it in some soil. And I think I only potted it in soil in the last like 6 months or so. Before that, it was in moss, which I know it did like quite a lot, and it was growing just perfectly happy fine in there. But I wanted to get it in soil in hopes that it would grow bigger and better. And I think since then it has popped out, I think this leaf and this leaf. This one Does look like it's a little bit on the way out, but that's okay. We'll just kind of hide that back there. Next to it is a Paulownia pulchra. This is one of my like general fave plants to like share with friends. It would be so much bigger if I hadn't chopped and propped it so much. I've chopped and propped it absolutely loads since I've had it, because it's one that I've never actually seen in a shop before, and so whenever anyone wants to do a swap with me, I like to trade some for this because it's very different, and I don't think it's the easiest to track down. It's also known as I think a watermelon begonia vine because of these like weird coloration on their leaves, but it's not a watermelon begonia at all. It is a completely separate thing that I love having just trailing down here, and sometimes the leaves go a little bit pink as well, which is just a bit of fun, and it's just overall a really cute little plant that I like to watch grow and trail and share with friends. Things are a little bit messy at the bottom here. I'm really bad about keeping my cabinet nice and clean. It is one of my bigger issues, but it's fine. I don't really mind that much. I should probably clean it though. I should have cleaned it before this video, but I want to show you the reality of my plants and how they are, and not something like really made up and fancy or anything. This is just exactly how they are. So this is my Scindapsus Silver Lady, and she has been grown from 2 tiny little leaves that were like this size and has since been growing very well. This leaf is honestly the pride and joy of this plant. Since then, it's not quite grown as big, even though it is on a pole. It is still a very happy girl though, and it is one of the few Scindapsus that I have in pond that I think do really well in there. Otherwise, I think that they're not the best candidates for pond. It is, however, really liking the moss pole life. You can tell it's really stuck in there at the top, and I think this root will go in there soon as well. Ideally, I would like to grow it a little bit fuller because it does look a little bit sparse like that. So maybe, since it's getting close to the top, maybe I'll cut it about there and let it start regrowing, and then prop that to go into the base to fill out the plant a little bit. I think that's a good goal for that one. Behind it, just take that out, I have a Philodendron branditianum, Philodendron brandy. I love this one so much. It has grown so much for me in the time I've had it. I got it as a tiny little thing that was just barely down here, and it has grown tons and tons up here. It doesn't look like it because I've chopped and propped it several times, and I've got some cuttings of it propping in a minute, but I would really love a nice big bushy plant of this climbing up the pole, because these leaves, oh my goodness, that sort of silvery blue camo color on them is insane, and it would just look so pretty being nice and big and bushy, and I would absolutely love that. But it's gonna take a while for those to prop. Once they have propped, I will put them down into the soil and hopefully fill it out a little bit. Up here, let me pull this out. This is my shallow puddle of Allocagecorms. To be honest, I probably should clean the water, change it. It's looking a little bit murky at the minute. But I just keep them in here until they start to properly root and sprout. Okay, Cleo. Well, I guess I need to really change the water now because I've spilled half of it all over my hand. But what I was saying is I just keep them in here until they root and sprout, and then they will just go straight into pond or semi-hydro when they've done that. These ones look like they are sprouting a little bit, but not really growing root-wise, so we will see what happens with them. Ideally, I'll change the water if I can remember to do that after I finish filming this. In the front down here is my Anthurium Regal, the sad girl that she is. She had the most big, beautiful leaf when I got her from the Rare Plant Festival in August, and she was doing so well for so long, until she went into my Redsta cabinet and got, like, I think a bit sunburnt, as well as I think I let her dry out a little bit too much, and it just caused her leaf to go off, and so I had to chop her. I think that might be new growth coming in there. It has changed a little bit in look since I have moved it into the Milsbo cabinet, so maybe, but I'm not holding my breath. It does have really amazing roots though that go all the way down into the reservoir there. So I'm just hoping that it comes back in bigger and better than before. Behind that, got another velvety philodendron on a moss pole. I think this is a philodendron gigas or gigas. I'm not too sure on the pronunciation, but it is a velvety philodendron, which is good at climbing, hence why I have it on a pole. I think it did get a bit damaged when I attached it to the pole originally, and that top growth fell off, so it is growing from a new growth point, which is amazing. But this has honestly been one of my slower growing philodendrons. I have kind of just put it in the back of the cabinet and don't really think about it that much, which isn't ideal. Of course, I would prefer to have all of my plants at the forefront, but I just can't do that because I have so freaking many of them. One of my proudest plants is this Alocasia Black Velvet. I grew this one from literally a leaf that big, and it's now like 3 times the size. It does suffer a little bit from the one in, one out policy. You can see this leaf is going out because we have a new leaf coming in, but this new leaf at the back looks absolutely huge, and I'm loving the sort of purple color that it's having at the back. And so I'm just so excited to see what this one comes out as. It's been pushing this one out for a while now. Oh, that was very satisfying. That will probably mean that this leaf has to go, but that's fine. I can handle that. This here is cuttings of a Philodendron Majestic that I got as an import, I think somewhere over the summer of last year. And it is just rooting in perlite. I think this was all the middle cuttings that I got off of it because it had kind of a long runner and then big leaves at the top, which I'm growing, I think, elsewhere. I think I'll show that to you when I show you the top of the cabinet. But this was all like the sort of middle cuttings, and they're slowly pushing out new growth and popping out new stuff. Their leaves look fairly similar to the brandy when they're small. Like, look at that. Those look very, very similar. I know the brandy's out of focus, but like whatever. So I'm hoping that I can get this one to grow a bit bigger and give me the characteristic majestic sort of camouflagey silvery blue leaves. But it is definitely taking a while. I could probably pot it up, but I haven't looked at the roots in a while. I probably should, but I'm just letting it take its time, and we will see when we will see. So this is my Philodendron Glorious top cut and middle cut that I took when I chopped that one up. They're just in a bit of sphagnum moss down there, and hopefully they are rooting well. I'm not going to pull them out because I don't want to look at them, but they are just very, very happy leaves. And they just look so perfect. Even with a tiny bit of damage, they look absolutely stunning. So those are doing really, really well. Here is my monster dubia. This plant has given me so much freaking stress. It has been a pain in my butt for so long. I got this leaf as a cutting nearly a year ago now. And oh my goodness, it rooted in like my prop box for so long. It was not putting out any new growth. It didn't actually put out any new growth until I potted it into soil, and then it put out this really long runner with not very big leaves. I probably should have put it on a pole before I did, but it's fine, I guess. I'm trying to hopefully now get those to trail up and shingle, which would be amazing. It does look like it is shingling a little bit more there, but I don't know, we'll see. If I can get it to grow like big, beautiful dubia leaves, that would be amazing. Even if I could get it to grow leaves this size, I would absolutely love it. This has been a plant that I've wanted for so long, and I kind of still consider it a wish list plant because it's not quite growing in a way that is exactly what I want, and I'm hoping that I can get it to grow in that way eventually, but for now it's just like this, and it is okay. I'm hoping it gets better, but for now it's just okay. And then at the back we have 2 of my Alocasias. This one is an Alocasia Silver Dragon. I got this one the same time I got my Black Velvet. Sorry, it's got water spots on it, but it is not growing nearly as fast as my Black Velvet is. You can see the difference in sort of stem size. It is definitely maturing. I think when I got it, the leaves were probably half the size of this leaf, as opposed to a third on here. You can really see it's not quite matured at the same rate, though it is maturing slowly. I absolutely love this one, and I think the bluey silvery color of the leaves is amazing. If you couldn't tell by a lot of these plants, I really like bluey silvery leaves, and especially with the sort of really dark contrast vein in there, it makes for a really beautiful plant that I love to look at, even though it's kind of shoved at the back of my cabinet, which isn't ideal, but it's fine. Also, this one does all suffer with the one in, one out policy, so it hasn't grown a new leaf in a little while. Is that a new one coming in? Maybe. That's either a new leaf or a flower. I can't quite tell. I feel like it might be a flower. And then in the back there, in the corner, is an Alocasia Dragon Scale. And I really, really love this plant, but it is so freaking sprawly that I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. It's just kind of spreading out throughout the entire back. That's why I have it kind of shoved into the back there. But I do really love this one as well. It is proper, sort of prehistoric looking. It looks like a dragon scale. A scale of a dragon, which is very fun and a bit playful, and I love, again, the contrast vein because it is really lovely. And this one's got a very leathery texture to it, and it's like super bumpy, which normally I don't tend to like in leaves, but with the Alocasias I can just get behind it because I really, really love them. And I should say as well, I keep all of my Alocasias in pon or semi-hydro because that is how they are the happiest. I've not been able to keep them happy in a sort of soil situation, so they all go straight into a semi-hydro from the corm stage if I get them like that. Moving up to the top, this is where the cabinet gets super duper crowded. I feel like the bottom's a bit more organized than the top is, but I guess I'll start from here and kind of pull things out as I go because that makes the most sense to me. These here are Philodendron Splendid cuttings. It was the top couple cuttings from my old plant that I had that was growing super, super tall on a lazy moss pole and grew like over the top of it. And so I had some cuttings that did not have roots. Oh my goodness, look at that. Look at that rooting in there. Doing so, so well. I found the Splendid to be so much of a better plant for me than the Melanochrysum. I know it is a Melanochrysum split with a Varicosum, so I think it gets all the good genes of the Varicosum in that it's quite easy, it's got beautiful red backs, but it gets also the good genes of the Melanochrysum with the beautiful dark kind of bluey shimmery leaves. Look at that. And the texture is just phenomenal. Next to it, which is going to be kind of hard to show you, it's one of my bigger plants in here, is another Alocasia Dragon Scale. This one's kind of got very wonky leaf shapes, but I'm kind of not mad at it. It looks kind of like the melting clocks from that Dali painting, so I'm kind of here for it. Like, look at that. It's just so funky and like beautiful. It is one that I imported again last summer when I did like the majority of my imports, and it has grown so well since I've had it. Basically, when I got it, it suffered with root rot and like rhizome rot, and I had to kind of start it over from nothing, which was kind of a pain for me, so not ideal. But it has come back with an absolute vengeance and is loving life in semi-hydro, so I am not going to complain. And it's got so freaking many leaves. I think this is a new one coming in as well. This one, for some reason, just does not suffer at all with the one in, one out policy. It just keeps pushing out more and more and more, and I will not complain about that. Here we have the bottom bit of a Synapsis officinalis. This one has given me so much freaking grief over the past year. It was down to nothing for a while, it grew one leaf for a while, and then it grew this really long vine full of a bunch of leaves that just didn't pick up this variegation. They didn't pick up the size, and in general, this one's just not looking that healthy anymore. So I'm not too sure what I want to do with it. I obviously don't want to get rid of it because I've gone through such a journey with it, but I also, I don't know. I don't know if I know how to keep it happy, so maybe I need to find it a better home because I think it deserves like all the best in the world. It's just I've not been able to keep it as happy as I would have wanted, which is unfortunate. Behind it, I've got another Scindapsus. This is Scindapsus Jade Satin, and I also recently chopped this one up because it was like climbing all the way to the top of the cabinet, and so I've chopped that up and I'm propping some more to go back in here. This is another one that I have in semi-hydro, and I think it's liking it a little bit better. Ooh, this leaf is very dirty, sorry. But in general, I think it is very happy in here and likes the situation. I'll talk a little bit more about it when I show you the cuttings that I have propping a little bit later. You can see it stays quite warm in here, ideally around 20 degrees Celsius. It does get kind of low sometimes, especially since it's been so cold recently, but it tends to stay in the like 60 to 90% range. And so I think a lot of my plants are really enjoying that and are very happy like that. This is the other section of majestic cuttings. This was the top cut, and oh my goodness, like look how much bigger this leaf is. It is insane. But they are so big and beautiful, and I'm really hoping that I can get them to grow back into a big beautiful plant because they are so pretty. Like look at that. One of them has really good roots at the bottom, and the rest I've kind of just started propping in this moss. So I probably could have potted that original one up, but I'd rather kind of keep them more together and hopefully pot them up at the same time and grow a big beautiful majestic plant. Back here, let me see if I can open this up. Maybe not one-handed. There we go. This is one that I probably haven't really shown on here. This is a Paleonia repens, I believe it's pronounced, and it is related to the Paleonia pulchra that I showed you below. But this one, instead of having a more velvety leaf, has a bit more of a leathery leaf, and the coloring is quite different on the leaf as well. It's just a bit of a fun sort of traily plant. I've just had it in this moss for ages, and it's doing absolutely fine. I should probably pot it up at this point, but I honestly kept my other Paleonia in moss for so long, and it did not complain in the slightest, so I might just continue keeping it in here. Maybe I'll put it into a slightly different vessel that's not as closed so it can grow a little bit bigger, but overall it is a very happy camper. I'm hoping that this can be another one that I end up doing a lot of swaps with because it's again one that's not as common in the like sort of houseplant sphere. This here is a philodendron. Oh gosh, I never remember how to pronounce this one. I'll put it on the screen. It starts with an M, and if I say it, I'll probably butcher it. But it has those like really gorgeous fingery, loby leaves when they mature, and it had one of those leaves originally, but that leaf has since fallen off, which is completely normal. I did recently put this one into soil and onto this Lomini lazy pole, which has stayed a lot damper for some reason. So I'm just going to keep it on here in hopes that it keeps growing and really likes it. You can see there is some new growth coming in, which is very exciting. And I hope that I can eventually get it to mature and properly finger out, because that is the joy of these plants, is that they have those cool fingery leaves when they are a bit more mature. So maybe one day. I don't know if it is meant to be a climber, but it looked like it really wanted to climb after it was propagating in moss. So I'm just gonna grow it like this until it tells me it wants otherwise. But for now, it'll just stay on here, which I think is fine. Next up, we've got some more alocasias. This one here is an alocasia platinum, which only one of the leaves actually looks platinum. This one back here These ones have gone a little bit greener. I think it's because they're a little bit older. But this was one that I got gifted to me from one of my followers who saw that it was on my wish list and wanted me to have one, which I'm so incredibly grateful for. I wanted to trade her, but she was like, no, I'm getting rid of plants. So it is now mine, and it is so freaking happy in here. And I think I got it as a 1-leaf corm, and now it's got 3. And eventually there will be more on the way, but for now it's probably going to stay pretty small. Again, I love this one for the beautiful silvery leaves. It's got a bit more like leathery leaves than the Silver Dragon does. It's like a bit shinier than that one, so it's just a bit of difference and fun in the collection. The other one here is fairly similar in leaf sort of texture, but it has a thinner leaf, more like the Alocasia Poly does. Oh, this leaf is brand new and big. Look at that. Super exciting. This is an Alocasia reversa. It was one that I got in an import, and again, it did okay in the import, better than the dragon scale, but it is still taking its sweet time. I just really, really love the dark middles of these plants, and how their veins, instead of being like a very bold contrasty vein, it looks like it just kind of gets dark in the middle and goes into a bit of a void of darker color, which is just a bit of fun, and I really like it, and I'm hoping that it keeps growing big and strong in here. And like you can see, the leaf sizing up is great here, so hopefully it continues along that sort of path. And then here we have 3 on some poles, 2 of which on lazy poles. This one is a Synapsis, either Platinum or Silver Hero. I think it might be a Platinum, because it's not got that line in the middle, which I feel like the Silver Hero has. But this is one that I got when my other one was massively suffering earlier in the year and just like hanging out with one leaf. I kind of got this one as a security cutting, and I put it in soil this time and on a lazy pole, which again, I'm not the best at keeping moist, and I think it's doing okay. I think I would probably rather take it off the pole and then put the other cutting in here as well and have them trail down, because I think they would like that a little bit better. But either way, I love this, and these were one of my like original sort of rare Synapsis that just have these gorgeous leaves like that. Behind it is my Amydrium medium silver, which is one of the freaking slowest growing plants in my collection. Oh my goodness, I think at the beginning of the year it had these 2 leaves. By the beginning of the year, I mean the beginning of 2022. And it took so long to grow these ones. And I mean, I'm liking the size of it and the shape of these leaves, the cool fenestrations. But oh my goodness, this plant is so slow. I don't know, it kind of makes it harder for me to love. Not that I need my plants to grow quickly for me to love them, but I feel like for the amount of attention I've given it, it isn't really giving back, unfortunately. So maybe it's one that I will trade away in the new year to someone who has a bit more patience with it, but I don't have tons and tons of patience for it, unfortunately. And then at the back there, is a Monstera siltepecana that I have just growing in some semi-hydro down there. And it's on a moss pole, and it absolutely loves it. It has grown so well for me. This is another one that used to like grow all the way up into the top of the cabinet and was pushing out leaves farther than it needed to. So overall, it's just a really happy one of mine. I don't really think about it all that much, but I do really like it. And I'm curious if anyone knows if these grow splits in their leaves as well, like other Monsteras. For some reason, I don't think they do, but they're just so pretty. I feel like they look also a bit like scales or something a bit more prehistoric with that dark veining in there. And it's just a bit of a fun one to grow, and a really easy one that I kind of set and forget and just get to enjoy and watch grow big and strong. Eventually I will pot some more cuttings back into it, but I'll show you those in a second. So I've got several things up here hanging on the sort of wire mesh at the back, and in this little shelf at the back corner back there is a Synapsis Leopard. That is actually one of my newest plant purchases. I know I broke my plant man for it, and it was one of the two that I got. This one was properly rooted and the other one wasn't. So I've put this one straight into soil and it's hanging out quite close to the grow light up there in the Milsbo, and I think it is liking it quite a lot. Another one on the back there is this Hoya carnosa compacta variegata. A very long name, but she's doing very well. I mean, super slow grower the compactas are. Let me pull it out so we can look at it a bit better. They're super duper slow growers, but this one is gorgeous, and the variegated ones, they tend to be quite expensive, so I'm quite lucky that I was able to get this one in a swap with a friend, but it is going to take ages to grow. I think maybe it's grown this leaf since I've had it. Yeah, because this leaf is kind of pink, which is the sign of the new growth, because these don't really go sun stressed in the same way that a lot of other Hoyas do. But yeah, it's just a really beautiful one, and it's fine if it just sits at the top of my cabinet and looks like a little cupcake up there. I'm not gonna be mad about that. Next to it is another Hoya. I think this is a Hoya Memoria, which I got from the first plant swap. Let me pull this one down as well. This one has taken absolutely freaking ages to grow. It was sitting in a prop box of mine for so long, and it's even still in moss. It's not even in soil. I should probably empty that out, but that's all right. It seems to be fine. But ever since I put it in the cabinet quite close to a grow light, it is doing so much better. You can really see the sun stress on the leaves and the variegation going quite pink, which I think is absolutely adorable. Normally I'm not the biggest into pink plants, but for some reason when Hoya variegation gets sun stressed and goes pink, I absolutely freaking love it. So I'm not mad. I should probably trellis it at some point because it is going on a bit of a runner up here, but I don't know, I'm taking my time with it because it is still putting out new growth. Those leaves at the top are new and they're coming out a little red and sun stressed as well. So it is a very happy camper. So I'm just going to continue letting it grow as it is for now, I guess. And then the last one that's hanging on the back of the cabinet is one that is kind of a surprise. Normally I pretty much only put Hoyas on the back here, but I feel like this Philodendron gigantum variegata is just loving life up here. I wanted it to be quite close to the grow light because they do like that in order to grow nice variegation. I did also recently pot this one up. It was rooting in moss, I think, for quite a while, and now I've just got it in some soil, and it does look like it is going to put out some new growth soon, which is exciting. I think it's been like that for like at least a month now, so it's going to be slow, but at the same time, I love the variegation on these leaves, so I can be patient. I think just marble variegation in general is my favorite because, I don't know, it just feels a bit more stable. It's a lot less likely to go brown than variegation with like massive white spots in it. So, I don't know, I really love this one, and I hope it grows well for me. We will see in time if it does or not. And then in the basket here, the first one we have, I think I'm gonna pull these down as well because it'll be easier to show you. The first one is my Hoya parasitica, which I think I got in February as like a 2-leaf thing, and it has since grown so much. It is one of my proudest Hoyas, I think, that I've ever had. It's just so freaking special to me because it started like this, like none of that, and it has grown so much, and the growth has been so healthy. And it's the first one that I realized that the variegation is sun stressed to this beautiful pink color, and it just makes me so incredibly happy. Like, there's the white variegation on it, and then that's the sort of pinky variegation. It is also, though, important to note that if it's getting too much light, Hoyas don't actually produce any more variegation. So these leaves here, I think because it is so close to the light at the top, they've grown really big, but there's minimal variegation on them compared to these ones, which is fine. It's just a bit of a different look, and I'm happy for the plant to have both, and I think it's happy to have both as well. Behind it is the rest of my Philodendron Splendid. So because it was on a moss pole, a lot of the bits did have roots that were going into it, and so I was able to pot them kind of straight up, which was really great. So these ones are just straight in soil. They're all mid cuts, so they are probably going to take a minute to actually produce new growth, but once they do, I'm hoping to put them on a pole again and get them climbing again, and hopefully I can get them to size up even further, because that would be amazing. Next to it is one of the few Hoyas that I have in semi-hydro that's actually doing okay, and it is the Hoya Australis Lisa. Let me see if I can pull it out easily. This is one that I have grown from, I'm pretty sure, just a single or 2-leaf cutting. I'm pretty sure I got this one from Sir Plants-A-Lot, oh gosh, ages and ages ago, but it is so freaking cute. I love the sort of variegation on these leaves with those spots, and with Hoyas, I'm perfectly happy having big bits of white on them because they don't burn in the same way more thinner leafed kind of philodendrons do, like the White Princess or a variegated monstera with big bits of white, so I don't mind it. Also, the white bits come out this gorgeous little pink color, and it's just so freaking cute, and it's just doing really well in here, and I think it is going super duper variegated because it is, again, so close to the light, but I'm not mad about it. I probably will have to move it, though, fairly soon, because it's probably going to outgrow the space. At the back here, we have a tiny bit of a sad one. You probably can't tell what this one is, but this is my Syndapsis tricolor that I got for my birthday last year, and it is looking so sad. So I did end up putting it into soil. For the longest time it was just in moss rooting, and it has rooted so well, but kind of when I put it into soil, it just dropped the leaves. I think Syndapsis is one of the ones that's hardest to take from prop to substrate, and they just kind of freak out a little bit, unfortunately. So right now it's just a bit of a wet stick in a pot, and I'm hoping, like I've got like my fingers and everything crossed, that it eventually pops out some new growth, because the tricolor was on my wish list for so long, and a bunch of my friends like grouped together and like all chipped in to get it for me. So it's just such an important plant to me that I would really love to have it back. Have those beautiful tricolor leaves back. Oh my god, that would be amazing. And then lastly in here, I have a little box with a bunch of pond things in them. I freaking love these little aeroid tower pots, the 5cm ones. 6 of them fit perfectly in a sort of takeaway container, and so it works perfectly to have that as the sort of the water reservoir for all of them, and they seem to really like it. The one that's doing the best in here, I think, is the Alocasia Malo. It does have 2 corms, and they are growing pretty well. This is one of my like favorite alocasias ever. I think they are so beautiful, and they have the most gorgeous texture. Like, look at the texture on those leaves. This one is going a bit yellowy. They're not normally this veiny looking, they're more of a silver color, but I don't know how happy this one is doing. I have heard that there was like a batch of Malos at some point that just didn't have great genes and were being sold, and I don't know, just kind of ended up not working out, unfortunately. But I'm hoping this one isn't one of those, but I think it might be. In the back left, I have another baby alocasia. I think it's a green shield that I had grown from corm before I gave my plant to Claire. In front of it is Hoya Crinkle 8. I got it from just a single cutting, and it has grown this one since I have had it, but it is, again, a very slow grower. This one, oh my goodness, what is this called? It's another Hoya, but it's got tiny little like button-sized leaves, and they're just furry. Like, I don't know how I can better show you that they're furry, and they're so freaking cute. It's like a Mathilde, but furry and smaller. So that's a fun one. I don't think it's grown tons since I've had it, but it does have a bit of a runner here, so Maybe it has and I've just not noticed. At the back right here is my Hoya Grey Ghost, which has done absolutely nothing for me in like over a year, and I don't know what's going on with it. I have checked it for flat mites, so I don't think it has them, but it also very well might. I might need to look at it again in the microscope because I do really want this one to grow for me. It is such a beautiful little Hoya. And then in front of it, got a tiny little sigillatus cutting, or sigillatus cutting, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but it is a very, very small one. This is one that I've wanted a bigger one for so long, and I finally got one in a swap, which is super exciting. This one has also only had 2 leaves for ages, and I don't think it has signs of growing many more anytime soon, so I'm glad that I got a bit of a bigger one. And that's it for the top shelf of my Milsbo, and I guess the entire cabinet. I have a few things on top of the cabinet. It's mostly just propagations. Starting over here in some slightly moldy sphagnum moss. I mean, the mold isn't ideal, I should probably change it up, but it looks like it's still growing roots just fine. This is a Hoya Bella. I've never had a Hoya Bella before, so I'm excited to see how it grows, and I've also heard that they flower so well and from kind of an immature age, so that is super exciting for me. We'll see if they do well, but I need to change this moss desperately. In some water, we've got the Monstera siltepecana cuttings that I took off of it before when it was sticking up to the ceiling of the cabinet, and they're doing well. They're just rooting in water. I don't know if they've got any roots yet, but they are just doing fine. And then next to them, I chopped at the exact same time my Jade Satin Pothos. This is what I was talking about when I said I would talk more about it earlier. I think it was getting slightly too much light at some points in the cabinet, and so this is sunburn. At first I thought it might have been something fungal or like pest related issues, but it's honestly not, because it was just because the leaves were too close to the light. The ones that weren't as close don't have the same sort of issues. They're supposed to look more like this, which is ideal, or like even this, the lighter green, but they did go a bit splotchy and yellow because of the light stress of being too close to the grow light in the cabinet, which isn't ideal, but they're still perfectly healthy otherwise, so I'm not too worried about it. At the back there, I have what is remaining of my Pink Princess, the parts that I chopped. So I still have the bottom bit in pond, but this is just the top cutting and a couple of mid cuts. I did decide to keep the half moon leaf because, like, obviously those genes are amazing, and the top cut because that's where I'm gonna get new growth from. And like, it does have quite a thick stem, so I'm hoping that it grows well. It hasn't rooted yet. I should probably change that water because it's looking a little bit nasty, but I think they'll be fine, and once they grow roots, they'll go back into the mother plant in the pond. I've got a little water prop vessel thing here with some stuff in it. What's left of my lemon lime Maranta. I know I underwatered that one massively, and so I chopped it back as well. Some Syndapsis, more Siltepecana, which I should probably put in with the other one. Some Hoya linearis and Crimson Princess, but these are just in little tubes of water, and there is some roots growing in there, not tons. And then running down the side of the cabinet, I've got my string of hearts plants. This is actually just 2 of them. So the one on the outside and the very back, those 2 are the plain green one. This is just propagations in some moss, and then the one in the middle is variegated. But oh my goodness, this is my favorite invention that I have invented. It keeps the moss moist with the lid of the hummus pot, but it still has a place to hang down, because what I was struggling with previously when I was propagating string of hearts is that I would let the moss get too dry and it would stunt the growth of them. So doing this, the moss stays nice and moist and they grow a little bit better. And then once they grow nice roots, I'll be putting them back into the back one back there. But these are actually growing really, really well along here. I think they quite like having the grow light on the inside on. It's off right now, but they do quite like it, and they are getting quite long. I think it's probably time to chop the variegated one again because it is getting almost down to here, and that is the point at which Cleo starts messing with it. So I'll probably end up propping that one again maybe the next time I have a hummus pot. So down here, just underneath the television, I have several shorter plants. I like to keep an eye on these ones just because there's some that have a little bit more needs in my experience, or they just don't have a cash pot because this is a tray and I can just water them and not worry about getting water everywhere. But first up, I have some Monstera. Ooh, is this a Laniata? But it is just another type of small leafed Monstera with some cute little fenestrations. I got this as a swap ages ago, and it's just in some water in my skull pot, which I love. And it's rooting so well. It's probably actually time for it to be pot up. It's been in the water for I think about 2 months now, so it's definitely time, and I'll probably do that when I get back from holiday. But it is doing really well. It's sitting just in front of my Snow Queen pothos, which I don't know if it actually is or not, but I'm pretty sure it is just a highly variegated marble queen. But as you can see, it is all facing towards the cabinet at the minute because it likes the grow light in there. I think it's allowing it to get slightly higher variegation. You can see the difference between that and that there. It's just an absolutely lovely plant, and I really like it, and I have it here so I can keep an eye on it because it is slightly more needy than the average marble queen or epibremnum, so having it here just underneath the TV means that I notice a bit quicker if something is going wrong with it. Next to it, this is actually one that doesn't need any extra care at all. It is an Aglaonema. Oh, I can't remember exactly what it is. It's one I got from Claire. It is just chugging along. I think I got it with 2 or 3 leaves, and it's slowly putting out more. I think this is a new one coming in as well. And it's just such an easy growing plant. It's one of 2 Aglaonemas I actually have in my collection at the minute, and I don't know why I don't have more because they're just so chill, and they do not need any like real attention in my experience. They can handle a lot of different environments, not much light, and they can just exist being cute and easy. So I'm really happy with it. Of course, it's got the bluey silvery colors that I love, and it's just a nice simple one. Behind it, oh gosh, I desperately need to water this. Oh my goodness, I'm kind of embarrassed about this, but I'm showing it to you now, so there we go. This is an Anthurium. I think it's a silver blush forgetii hybrid, but it's really cute, and it's obviously not doing the best, unfortunately. I think that is a me problem. I need to probably water it a little bit more often than I do. I think that's why I do have it out in this area where it's very obvious, but I still managed to forget to water it. So I don't know, it does have like really beautiful shiny leaves, which is super exciting. I do love that about this type of Anthurium. And I can't tell if that's like silveriness or variegation or pest damage. It doesn't feel like pest damage, nor variegation, nor silveriness, but I think it makes the leaf look really cool. So it's just a gorgeous little one, and like I said, not my best Anthurium, but definitely a really cute one, and I need to pay better attention to it because I do like it otherwise. We've got some Monstera Standaleyana cuttings in here. They're just in some moss. I actually cut these when I did my Monstera Standaleyana care video, just from the top of the plant because it was overgrowing my moss pole. And yeah, it's just doing really well. They're fine in here. They're probably gonna take freaking ages to root, but I mean, they'll get there eventually, so I just have to be patient, I guess, with them and hope that they don't take too long, because I'd love to pot them back into my plant and get them growing up the pole as well. That would be amazing. Let me just pull this out if I can without dropping everything. This here is a bit of a Paraiso Verde, but it is a bit reverted. I think this is probably the most variegated leaf on it, which I don't mind that much. It's just propping in water. I think I'm gonna put it into pond, and that's why I've got it in water. But it's fine. It is growing still, and it's rooting well, so I'm not too worried about it. But Paraiso Verdes, I found that they seriously do need quite a lot of light. So if you're not giving them quite bright light and warmth, they will sort of revert. Their variation is stable though, so it's not gonna go away completely, and it'll come back if you give it better light. But I mean, I don't mind the look of this either. I prefer them a little bit lighter and mintier, but I don't think that this is bad or a problem. It still looks kind of cool. And so yeah, this is here rooting fairly well in some water. And then we've got two Sansevierias at the end. This one I think is a Sansevieria Mikado. Got it from IKEA ages and ages ago. If you've been around on my channel for a long time, you'll know that this was originally Joe's plant. We got it on our second date at IKEA, and it lived in his house for quite a while before we lived together and was doing not that great, and has only really perked up in the time that I've had it. But it is such a lovely little one. I kind of like how it's grown a bit crazier than before. Before it was just a bunch of like straight up little sort of cylinders like this, but now it's just a bit sprawly and funky, and I like it. So it's my plant now, and I really like the little stripes on it. It's super cute. This one here I kind of have here to hide the cables of the TV. It's the tallest one here. This is a Sansevieria Silver Flame. This plant got seriously neglected and potentially had a scale or something over the summer. It just like didn't get watered when I went away on a holiday, and the main bit of the plant died. This was just a pup off the side of it, and I took it and I propagated it. This one is one of my favorite types of Sansevieria, though you can't properly see its like full potential because it is so small. It is, however, rooted in there. Like you can see roots here and there. So it is happy, and I'm hoping that I can get it to grow big and strong again, but I think it's going to take a while. They are fairly slow growers. I could probably put it in a cabinet or something, and it would probably love the boost of humidity and light. So maybe that is something I'll do, but for now it's just sitting hiding these wires by our TV. Next to it, in one of my favorite pots of all time, my head pot from H&M Home. Don't think they sell it anymore. Sorry if you want it, but it is one of my favorite. I'm just cleaning it off. In it is my Hoya Crimson Princess. And this plant I have had for so long as well. I actually propagated it from cuttings that I got from my cousin's plant, like 2 or 3 cuttings that were really quite small. And it took ages to root and ages to grow, but going from like 3 to like 6 leaves to this, I am so freaking proud of it. And I do really love the sort of variegation on these plants. It almost looks like it's painted on with those like little bits of medium green and cream and dark green. And the new growth coming in all pinky. I mean, you can't really see it here, but the stems are pink. So yeah, it's just doing well here. I think I probably should put it somewhere slightly brighter, and it would probably like me better for it, but for now it's just gonna be here and it's fine. Next to that, I have my Thanksgiving cactus. This is the one that I got from Mind, Body and Soil in their December subscription box, and it did have flowers on when I got it because it was more wintry at that point in time, and it was blooming beautiful pink flowers, but they all fell off after the winter period, which isn't a surprise, and now it's just chilling with its cool green leaves. I'm pretty sure this is a jungle cactus, so that's exciting. I'm getting more into jungle cacti this year, and so having this is a bit of fun. I'm hoping that I can keep it happy and healthy and growing, and continuing on. And then the last thing on here is these propagations of Philodendron Brazil. I got these from Claire when she moved house. This was one of the only plants that got knocked, and this whole vine came off. I cut it into like tiny little like middle cutting pieces, and I've stuck it in water and I think it's doing fine. I'm just gonna leave it in here until it's like really properly rooted and then probably pot it up. So yeah, that's this little under the TV area. Carrying on to the sideboard, we have several plants on poles. Right now I've got my 2 variegated monsteras together on this pole. I think I actually need to push this one in so its air roots go into the pole, because I think it would like that a little bit better. But I have one that's a lot more highly variegated. It's giving me like 3/4 leaves of white, which inevitably do end up going a bit brown. You can see it in the back there that this one has gone quite brown. I should probably trim those bits off. But I've got that one, and then there's one that is a little bit less variegated. It still has quite good spots on it, but for the most part it has a bit more of marbled variegation, which I find to be a bit easier growing because it is a bit more stable and is a lot less likely to go brown. I did only recently put this one on the pole, so I'm not expecting it to be like fully growing up it yet, but I think my goal is to eventually have it grow up there and like have more pole on top of it, because I think that would be really cool. Next to it, I've got my Cebu Blue on the pole, and this one is doing okay on here as well. This is honestly one of my favorite plants of all time, the Cebu Blue. It is just such an easy going plant. I say as it has like literally a leaf that's not doing the hottest, but otherwise it is just amazing. I love the like silvery blue leaf color, and it's one of the few plants I have in my collection that I could probably have all over my entire house. I do have multiples of this plant, and I love them all because I just think they're so freaking pretty. I think my goal with this one, by putting it on the pole, is to get it to mature in growth, but it's not getting the best light here. Although it does get grow light from this Sansi bulb, it's like kind of blocked by the Monstera. Maybe I could switch them around and it might work a little bit better, but I'm not sure. Next to it, I have my Monstera Thai Constellation. And oh my goodness, it is growing so well. This is honestly the freaking slowest growing of the sort of Deliciosa Borsigiana monsteras. It's taking its sweet time, but I have gone through such a journey with this one. And I grew it from a single leaf that had root rot, and so I think I have so much more love for this one because I've gone through such a journey with it. Even though it's like not the fastest grower, it is growing so well for me, and the growth it is giving me is bigger and bigger each time with more variegation and more splits. So I'm just excited to see how it continues. It doesn't look like there's a new leaf coming in quite yet, but I'm sure it will come in time. And another good thing about the Thai is that the variegation is stable on it, and so unlike the Albo where the variegation can get lost, on the Thai it will always be variegated. So that is another reason to love the Thai Constellation Monstera. And then down in front of all of those, I have this Maranta. This is the variegated green form, and to be honest, it's doing all right. It did suffer for some burns from touching a grow light a while ago, and I think it could use a little bit higher humidity because it does have some crispy edges, but honestly I'm just going to cut them off and it's perfectly fine. It is in pon and it likes that. Also my Thai is in pon back there, whereas those two are in soil. Got a good mix of things over here, but this one is a generally really great plant, and it's cat safe, isn't it? Hello baby. If you eat the Maranta, you're not going to die, and that's why I have it in the front there, because I want to make sure that if she does end up eating anything, it would be this. I mean, I don't want her to eat him. I don't want her to eat any of them, but if she has to, she can eat that one. And then on this side, I've kind of been rearranging this corner a little bit lately. I used to have my cissus there. I'm so sad it's gone. It was really helping with texture because there's quite a lot of big leaf things in this corner. This one down at the bottom is, I think it's a Philodendron Melanonii. I think I was originally sold it or given it as a philodendron fat boy, but it isn't one. But honestly, it is one of my favorite philodendrons, and it's one that's not that common. I don't know very many people who have it, and it's just huge and sprawling, and this is kind of the only place in my whole flat that I can put it because it is so big and crazy. Like, look how long this leaf is. I literally can't even show you how long it is because it is so long that it's just doing so well, and I think it's putting out a new leaf at the minute, which is awesome as well. They come out of these little sort of pinky stalks, and honestly, it's just been loving life in soil and been absolutely fine. Behind it, I have the gorgeous, glorious, one of my pride and joy plants that I imported in 2022. It is honestly one of my favorites. It's just got these huge, beautiful leaves. So I'm pretty sure the glorious is a combo between the gloriosum and the melanochrysum. And so it gets the like huge, big, amazing sort of greenier leaves from the gloriosum, but they're also super duper velvety, more like the melanochrysum, and like shiny like the melanochrysum, and slightly more elongated like the melanochrysum, and it climbs, which is great because I love my gloriosum so much, but I love this one, I think, almost more because it climbs instead of trails. And I just have this one on a moss pole, and it's tied up back here because it makes it slightly more presentable, and I like it a little bit better like that. It's just a very happy camper. And actually, I saw the other day that from where I cut, it's starting to produce some new growth, which is so exciting. I'm hoping that it doesn't decrease in leaf size too much, because honestly, this is one of my pride and joy plants. Above that, we have a bit of a sprawly Calathea ornata. I'm not sure that this is the best place for this one. And I mean, I do really love this plant, but I don't know if I'm keeping it as happy as I used to keep my old one. My old one was so great until it got spire mites, and I just couldn't handle it, and so I ended up like throwing it away. I think this one's perfectly happy, other than it got a little bit underwatered, and that's why it's got spots of yellow in there, unfortunately. And then like down here as well, there's some yellowing and crisping, which isn't ideal. I'm not 100% sure what's going on with it, but I still think it is absolutely beautiful, and it does add like a nice bit of difference of color to this area. Whereas this is like green, even though they've got different textures, they look quite similar. And then the pink pinstripes of the ornata just give it a little bit of extra flavor in there. Down at the bottom here, I've got some propagations of Hoya croniana super silver that I got from Claire. They're just propping in water. Eventually I will put them into the other plant that I have. You can kind of see the roots in there a little bit, but it's just chilling in here propping for now. And then my 2 pieces of my Burlemarks Variegata, which I got at the first plant swap from Memo. I love this one so much. For the longest time I had it on a pole because it felt like it wanted one, but I don't think it actually liked it that much. But the coolest thing about this plant is at every growth point, it splits off and it starts a second set of growth points from there. So it kind of like branches out exponentially and will become an absolute bush. I did end up chopping it, and so I have this bit propping in here, and this one's actually put out a whole yellow leaf, which is kind of cool. But it is just such a fun plant, and normally I'm not the biggest fan of yellow variegation, but on this one I can't get enough of it because it's just so freaking pretty. Over in this corner, actually the only plant on this whole side of the room, excuse the slightly messy couch, is my bird of paradise. And you can see I have it here because when the sun does shine, it gets beautiful sunlight, and I think it really loves that. I got this plant much smaller. I think it was probably about there when I got it. And one thing I love about the bird of paradise is just how big the freaking leaves get. They get so huge and beautiful, and like, look at that, and shiny and happy and gorgeous. And it's just one that I wouldn't say it's a fast grower, but when it does grow, it puts out bigger and bigger leaves, which makes it even more of a statement piece. And I'm hoping that come summertime it starts growing even more. I think it gives me like maybe 3 or 4 new leaves per year, per growing season. It does have like 3 plants in it down there. And to be honest, I probably could repot this one. I did repot it semi recently. Gosh, I think maybe in like November, December time. So I did just repot it, but I think I might need to do so again come spring if it is starting to grow a bit more. Hello again, Cleo. You want to be part of this, don't you? Or you just want to sit by the radiator nice and warm? So I think I'm also going to take you into the kitchen because I have 2 plants in there that I want to show you really quickly, and I can't really make a whole video on my kitchen tour alone. It would be a 2-second video. So this is a northwest facing window. So in theory, this side does get a little bit of sun in the late afternoon. Sometimes this leaf gets a little bit of sun in the late afternoon, but for the most part, they get medium indirect light, which for this Dracaena is absolutely fine. This is a Dracaena White Jewel, and it is still growing perfectly fine. It would probably like to be in a slightly brighter spot, and I could move it into one, but I kind of don't want to because I kind of like it here. And then my OG Alocasia Poly Amazonica. This one is just in self-watering down here, and it's in one of the self-watering pots I don't like all that much because I can't like drain it or like rinse the pond at all or like check on the roots. But my plan with this one is to eventually put it in with its babies because this is the plant I originally got corms from, and like I've grown those out loads. So I'm hoping that I can put that in there sometime in this year. I just wanted to get it used to semi-hydro because it used to be in soil. It was the last Alocasia I actually moved from soil to semi-hydro because it was doing pretty fine in the soil before. I mean, that being said, it was struggling a little bit, and it does look like it's struggling a little bit now, but I'm putting that down to it being winter, and this window does get opened in the evenings when we're cooking, and so it does kind of get a little bit of cold drafts, which isn't ideal for either of these, but they're fine. And I mean, I can't complain because they are still alive and they bring just that tiny bit of greenery into our kitchen. So that is it. Those are all of the plants in my living room and kitchen. I really hope you enjoyed seeing the state of my plants, how they're doing, and how things are going along. Don't forget to watch the next 2 videos as well of the office and bedroom. Those will be up in the next couple of days. Once they're up, I will link them down below in the description so you can go have a look at those too. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up down below and leave a comment if I mentioned any plants within this that I haven't made care videos on, that you want to see care videos on, and I can try and make that happen for you and explain how I'm keeping some of them happy and healthy, most of them happy and healthy, some of them are okay. Most of them are doing really well though. Anyways, let me know down below in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!